College football season is here. We get started this weekend. From what I have been able to glean from kind of the macro level coverage going into the season, there is a heavy Arch Manning investment that is not supported by fact, track record, or history of his own.
No.
This hasn't happened. And by the way, the guy that he did not beat out at Texas, Quinn Ewers, had his first preseason game, and I believe it was 4 for 16.
It might be worse. I think it was like 5 for 18. Yeah,
it was bad news.
Yeah, it was bad news. It looked like somebody playing. Okay, listen, it looked like somebody playing against pros for the first time.
But he wasn't playing against pros. He was playing against the Orkin Man, the Amazon Task Force. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, there was a guy in a linebacker with a blue vest, right? Like he made the tackle and then he took a picture of it, right? Like delivered. No, I mean, yeah, he's playing it, but those guys are still incredibly good, and they're better than what you're going to see in college. You know,
True.
I say this, by the way, as a manner of excusing Arch, because the only time I've seen Arch play in person, was versus Georgia. And as our mutual George Foster said, they threw that boy in the hot grease. Yeah, immediately. Like they threw him in the grease immediately, and it was popping, and he was frankly unready. Okay. And in a very unfair situation. Georgia was in a lather. It was the second quarter. They were already getting all of the cheeks kicked, like just getting smoked, right? Sometimes the defense just does that. Like they could just sit back and cover one and they're like, we're murdering you. We're murdering you. They were as motivated and as aware of the game plan as they were at any time in the season. It was the best 2 or 3 quarters Georgia played all year. And he wasn't ready. He shouldn't have been ready. Like by any definition of the word ready and any reasonable expectation, that's probably what you should have seen. He looked stunned. He looked like things were moving too fast. He looked like Quinn Ewers yesterday, which is what happens when somebody jumps up a level in competition. I don't think we're going to necessarily be totally ready for what you see because or aware of what he's truly capable of, because have you looked at the first month of their season? They do get off to a big start against Ohio State. Mind you, that is Ohio State with a new defensive coordinator replacing a lot of people. However, that's still going to be on the road. It's still going to be very intimidating, and it's still going to be at a speed that he's not entirely familiar with. But the next 3 weeks of the schedule is where we might start lying to ourselves about him being maybe better. He'll come out of Ohio State and he might look terrible. He really might. I don't think he will, because if you know Steve Sarkisian, he's going to give his quarterback a lot of easy reads. We're going to see a lot of throws to the flat. We're going to see a lot of swing passes. We're going to see a lot of, easy boots and play action to get him comfortable and get him some completions. Those next 3 weeks, though, that's where we really might start lying to ourselves, because they play San Jose State, they play Sam Houston, and they play UTEP. Those 3 schools are going to balloon his stats. It's very good for him, by the way. That's exactly what I would want. Like if you were a quarterback and you were going for the first part of the season, what would you want? Hey, I want to throw 15 times against Ohio State and hand the ball off a lot. Great idea. And then for the next 3 weeks, I want cupcakes. I want to just sort of build my confidence. I want to stack stats. I want to look maybe better than I'm going to look later in the season, because I'm going to need that. It's a longer season than it's ever been before. I'm going to need that confidence. And I'm going to need to, frankly, take some second halves off. If I can avoid those hits, if I can avoid, the trauma of the game itself and save it for later, I will. So it's intriguing to me. I don't think you're actually going to get a decent read on him until, the second month, third month of the season.
So our kind of new reality television model of following sports, which is to say, for whatever reason, we find familiar people or familiar names, and then they become our obsessions. This is part of the Shedeur Sanders situation, right? It is the way we feel about his father carrying down to him, and that fame conferring upon him. Part of what is fascinating about Arch Manning, obviously, is he's not even a son; he's a nephew. Right? He is a nephew. He is Cooper's son. Cooper, who, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if he still does, but he used to have a podcast called Soup with Coop, which is, by the way, your reinforcement of how much different it is when it's a white man named Coop and a black man named Coop. It means if we call you Coop because it's your first name, it's something very different than if we call you Coop and it's your last name, right? What I find interesting about Arch Manning in the historical sense is, unlike his brothers, he is actually similar to his father. I mean, his grandfather, rather, right? I always felt like Archie Manning had to be terribly ashamed of how slow his boys were. It has to be very similar to when, like, black people raise their kids against white people and then look up and they can't dance, right? Like, oh man, I knew a woman once who told me that situation. She told me that her daddy looked at her dancing with the white people and immediately put them in track because he figured that would be the next step to getting them back to where, like, he realized he had failed, man. He tried to give him a better life, and in some ways he felt like he gave him a worse one. But there are reasons to have questions about Arch. There's been a long-standing belief that much of the hype is just centered around his last name. I've seen the talent with him moving. Like I say, that's where he reminds you of his father. He could really go. I've seen no reason to believe in Arch the passer as of yet, but we're talking about him like we're almost talking about him like you talked about Andrew. Not like Andrew Luck going into year 3, because that was its own different level of hype. But it's still, I feel like it's not a what will Arch be, which is what I think it should be about, a question rather than anything declarative.
I think what you'll see, and this is, again, people pare down playbooks and they pare down expectations as we go. If the dude can run, this is college football. He's going to run. That's it, right? Like, oh, hey, I don't know. Maybe we need to bring him along with this. But shut up. No, this is stupid. This is a very simple game at its root. If he is primarily a runner, then Steve Sarkisian and that staff will use him as a runner. And that is the thing. Now, maybe some of those things are going to be RPOs. Maybe some of those things are going to be a lot of sort of simplified run pass reads that he's going to be able to do. And that's fine. That's fine. Leave that to the NFL scouts to worry about. What Texas is charged with is winning. And if that's what he is, if he is a runner first, then that's what he's going to be. This is my Bob Cousy take. When somebody's like, man, streets weren't ready for Bob Cousy. You don't know what he was putting down. Okay, my thing is this. Archie Manning, you have no idea what an athlete Archie Manning was prior to the Superdome eating his knees. That's really what I want to get to.
The Superdome and all the opponents for the Saints could do nothing to help.
No, they could do absolutely nothing. They destroyed that man's legs. But one of my great white whales, if I can find it, is a full copy of the game tape for that 69 Ole Miss Alabama game, because that is the one where he goes full Johnny Manziel. And we don't have a full copy of the game tape for that game. I think he throws for over 300. He runs for over 100. He is a monster in that game. A Manning, I said that out loud, a member of the Manning family, running all over everyone's ass and looking like greased lightning out there.
Yo, that's what I keep telling people, man. He had to be a little bit ashamed while also being like, boys, the path to safety is in the pocket.
Yeah, he had to do that because that's why he limps now. I think Arch needs to go ahead and at one point play outside of the playbook. I think that's it. And I think they know that too, because if you want to unleash all of that talent in a form that everyone can work with and understand, it won't necessarily be playing within the play, within the X's and O's. He's going to have to he's going to have to improv. He's going to have to do some things that are probably going to make everyone real nervous. It makes coaches nervous when they don't know what's going to happen on a play, but he's not totally ready to just operate yet. Right. And this is not controversial. Like, none of this should be controversial. Okay. This is going to be a first-year full-time starter, not ready to operate what can be a kind of complex offense. And I think that's, again, something that the staff knows and that down the road you'll see. I mean, I'm excited because I like these kind of quarterbacks. I do feel bad for him because when I went to the game in Austin last year, I saw nothing but Arch Manning jerseys. He was not the starter, Bo. It was all Quinn Ewers was the starter and had been the starter and had put in a lot of hours and time and played a lot of games for the Longhorns, and it was all Manning jerseys. There's no way that in some way he can't disappoint if they don't, Heisman national title. There will be people who will be disappointed.
Well, first of all, let's not forget, Quinn Ewers came into college as a BFD himself, right?
Huge.
And to be fair to Quinn transferred in after, I believe he made some bad decisions. But he transferred to Texas where he was probably going to go anyway, but he jumped out to get some short money on some NIL and then
Mhm.
couldn't beat out CJ Stroud. At that point, I think you stay at Ohio State because you're going to be throwing to something incredible. But
Yeah,
instead, he came back to Texas and look, it worked out okay. But Quinn's got to be the best quarterback Texas has since Colt left, right?
I think so. And
And
go
and
ahead.
everybody's talking about Arch. And it has little to nothing to do with Arch actually playing football. It is the damnedest thing. Never seen anything quite like it. But good thing for Arch, they're loaded. And they're loaded in a way where it's not like when Texas has been loaded in the past and you still think somebody's going to push them around, right? They had literally 4 seasons around Mac where they did not get pushed around. And in those 4 seasons, they lost a combined 2 games or 3 games. Like that's how that goes, right? This is a Sarkeesian, like they did what so many programs around the country did, especially in the SEC. Get your Saban guy and hope that you can implement a Saban-like system and hope for the best. It has not worked out well for everybody. It's working out pretty well for these guys so far.
If you look at their depth chart, and most depth charts, I use the same thing everyone else uses. I use rlads.com. If you go there, you can look at the depth charts, and they're pretty frequently updated. They're pretty up to date. And if you look at any contemporary team's chart, anyone right now in 2025, you're going to see a lot of orange. Orange is the color that they indicate to that you have a transfer coming in for 2025. Most rosters look like half orange, half. Some more so. Some like 2/3 orange. Ironically, the burnt orange of Texas, two transfers. This is a homegrown, home picked team that has a lot of experience coming back, a lot of native talent, a lot of talent that the staff handpicked, recruited, and brought in with great intent. Wisner at running back alone is a concern. They are going to be heinous to face this year. So there is an element of don't screw this up, right? Well, one more thing on Quinn Ewers, by the way, we don't talk about injuries in college enough. That guy had some injuries that just changed the way he threw. I swear, the deep ball that he threw in year 1 versus the deep ball that he threw in year 4, those are two different things. I think he lost something in the arm through injury, and I'm not exactly sure where along the line. I don't have his his injury chart with the little body outlined with all of the little X's and red marks on it, but I swear injuries changed his potential at the college level and then consequently at the pro level. The dude you see now is not the dude I think you would have seen had a couple of injuries and some luck gone one way or the other.
All right. Now, the Texas transfer thing you mentioned is interesting because the thing I tell people that's a little bit tricky about that job is that, and look, things have changed now, the money and the way the money works, where the geography is still going to be a dominant factor in
Mm-hmm.
where guys go to school, but obviously it's not as clear and clean as it used to be, right? People are going to throw some bags around, people are going to make some different decisions. Okay, cool. But players typically go close to where they are from for a number of reasons. The thing that is underrated about Texas is that, and A&M also, but it's only close to Texas,
Yeah.
right? Like if you have to subsist on that program on local talent, and nobody else, by the way, can subsist only on local talent. But even if you're in Georgia, is maybe another program that can, but by and large, you look at their roster and they're like, no, we don't. We get the best players from Georgia, but we got to go everywhere else to get them.
Yeah.
But they're close to Charlotte, right? They're close to Alabama. They're close to North Florida. They're close to a whole bunch of places. Austin is close to Houston,
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, and like a circle that kind of goes around there. That is what they're close to. If they're not getting it done with local players, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah. And if you doubt the Texas thing is real, that it's not, that Texas isn't close to anything but Texas, go look at what they've had to do in Lubbock to get talent there. Go look at the money that they've had to drop.
And that's close to less because that ain't even close to Houston and Dallas.
It's close to the moon. That's it. It's the FBS program that is furthest away from all the other FBS programs. Like if you triangulate it, the most remote one is not Wyoming. It is not it's not like your Boise's. It's not it's Lubbock. Lubbock is the one. And if you go and look, they've had to drop a tremendous amount of money just to get talent there. Right? There, but the upside of that is you're right. If you're in Texas, you can subsist on local talent. You can build a national champion out of that talent. That's something that like South Florida can't even say anymore. Like even Miami's always had to go out of their way to get offensive line recruits because they just don't have the same kind of offensive line recruits. Go look at their prime lines of like the 2000s. They're getting guys from like Canada. They're getting Martin Bibla to come down to Miami, which easy sell, by the way. Great sell. Texas has the same sell. Hey, are you tired of being cold? Do you never want to be cold again? Do you want to be rich and not cold? Come on down. Come on down. Can you imagine that's a good deal. If you've been cold that long and not had money and you're 18 years old and somebody's like, hey, would you like to be big and strong for money? Would you like to have, let's say, a relatively modest sum for a left tackle at this point? I'm going to pay you $500,000 to come play in Austin, right? You come on down from whatever farm you just walked off of, and we'll bring you in. And all of a sudden, you're in Austin, Texas, and you have money you don't understand, right? You're like, at the end of the month, I have that left.
That is actually an underrated part of the NIL thing, like what the first paycheck is like. Like I remember when I was 21, I worked an internship at a fairly large company.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the internship paid $5,400 a month before tax. It was like they pay like you had an MBA or something like that. Okay. Ooh. And this is in the summer of 2002.
Good God.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I'm staying at my parents' house. Okay. So the first check I got was a 1 week check because of my start date. And that 1 week check was for $1,000. And I looked at my father and I said to him, I understand a little better how it is that people sell out. And that was over $1,000. I know that for many of you, you've heard this story before, but I've been telling this story now for almost 25 years. Mm-hmm. And it still shocks me to look back on how excited I was at $1,000. These motherfuckers are getting checks after taxes with like 5 figures before the dot.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were going to tell your dad, be like, listen, you don't have to worry about that mortgage anymore. I have $1,000.
I got $1,000 now.
Going to make it happen.
Drake's on me.
Yeah. I love that for them. I despise any effort to curb that. I think that is the best part of the current game is that we're actually paying these players now. I also worry about whether somebody's trying to sell them PS6s, right?
Yes.
I don't even think that's out yet. No, that's what this is. It's only $10,000. You can have one before anyone else. And I've just written in Sharpie on the side of a PS5, right? PS6.
Yeah, finally guys can get money and show it, right? Like I was watching Goodfellas the other day, and like a college football player showing up with some jewelry on is like, old buddy pulling up with his wife in the mink.
Yeah, take that back. Take it back.
Buddy with the pink Cadillac on the curb.
Yeah. Like, it's in my mother's name. It's in my mother's name.
Like, what are you guys doing?